After a meeting between a Southeast Asian prime minister and a representative of Cardiff, a company that specializes in freshwater systems, a group of rebels assassinate the prime minister and initiate a coup d'etat. Jack Dwyer and his wife Annie are with their daughters on a plane heading to the Southeast Asian country. Jack works for Cardiff and is going to take part in their freshwater installation for the country. Their daughters Lucy and Briegel are restless, and Briegel's looking for her stuffed animal. A man behind them picks up the stuffed animal and hands it over. Briegel talks to the stranger for a moment about his various scars before Annie tells her to stop bugging the man. Lucy asks her father what happens if they don't like where they're going, or if the company he's working for also goes belly up. Jack argues that his new company is a lot bigger than his old one. They arrive, and Jack notices that his phone, which is meant to work internationally, isn't working. They look for their driver, but the stranger tells them that the people with signs are scam artists. The stranger guides them through the airport and introduces himself as Hammond. He offers to take them to the Imperial Lotus, where they're all staying. At first, they're eager to take him up on the offer, but quickly question their decision. They meet the driver, who goes by Kenny, and decide not to wait around, especially because Hammond is going to go to the same place as them anyway. On the way to the hotel, Jack notices behavior by the locals and the military in particular. In the hotel, Jack and Annie notice a lot of things aren't working. There's no service on their phone or TV, and when Jack goes to the front desk, nobody can give him a direct answer as to what's going on. He asks if there are any calls from his company, but is told no. Jack goes to the bar, where he sees Hammond singing karaoke. He grabs a beer, and Hammond joins him when he's finished. The two chat, and Jack tells Hammond about his company failing, working for Cardiff, and dragging his family to this new life. Eventually, Hammond ends the conversation by saying he's going to go to a strip club, leaving Jack at the bar. While Jack and Annie lie asleep in their bed that night, Jack is woken by a noise. He gets up to investigate, but doesn't see anything. Jack looks over and sees the bed empty. He walks into the bathroom and sees Annie crying. He tries to apologize to her, but she asks to be alone. Cinema recap here. We've got a little challenge that'll take 5 seconds, and it will change your life forever. You ready? All you gotta do is like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and you'll receive 10 free years of good luck. It's as simple as that. The following day, Jack goes to the reception desk and asks if there are any calls for him, but they say there's still no calls. When he asks for a paper, the receptionist tells him the delivery never came, but guides Jack to where to go and get one. Jack walks into the town to find a paper and encounters locals along the way, walking through the markets. The whole time, something seems off to him. Everyone looks at him like a pariah. He finds the newspaper stall and doesn't find any English newspaper, other than a 3-day-old one. While Jack is briefly transfixed on a wind chime, he's interrupted by the sounds of soldiers marching towards his location. He turns to see a fully armed force walking into the area. He looks in the opposite direction and sees the locals armed with their own weapons, ready to fight back. Jack doesn't know what to do, as shops around him quickly shudder. He's caught in the crossfire of a street fight between the citizens and military. The military opens fire on the civilians, and Jack runs for his life. Jack runs back to the hotel, but around every corner is violence. As Jack returns to the hotel, he finds the rebels gathered around the ground floor with their leader. They drag out one of the Cardiff employees, and Jack watches as they kill him. Realizing he's next, he tries to escape, but is spotted. Jack quickly grabs the ladder on the side of the building and climbs. They gain on him before he kicks the ladder off its bracket and allows it to fall. Jack smashes the window and climbs into the hotel. He sees that the staff are barricading the front and is told to go back to his room. He soon hears the window smash, and the rebels enter the hotel, opening fire on the staff. Jack gets to the elevator and goes to his floor, flustered and afraid. Jack gets back to the hotel room where Annie and the girls are preparing to go for a swim. He frantically knocks on the door, and when Annie lets him in, he tries to explain to her what's happening. Jack and Annie look for Lucy, realizing that she went to the pool alone. Jack leaves to go find her and tells Annie to stay in the room. As he moves through the halls, he has numerous close encounters with the rebels. While Annie helps Briegel with her shoes, she hears a noise in the hallway. Hearing screams, she realizes they're coming. She tells Briegel to get into the bathroom and lock the door. Through the peephole, she sees the rebels across the hall, having destroyed a room. She hears them go to the room next to theirs. She hears the screams before they begin trying to get through the shared door between the rooms. Annie puts herself up against the door and holds her position. Briegel walks through, and Annie quietly tells her to go back and hide. Jack makes it to the pool, finding Lucy swimming. He quickly goes to grab her but realizes that there are rebels everywhere. He quickly takes a flotation device to block the door from easily opening, but they start breaking windows. He grabs Lucy and begins to run as guests scream in panic. Jack runs up the stairs with Lucy in his arms, with rebels not far behind him. A door opens, revealing a rebel right in front of him. Hammond appears out of nowhere and attacks, telling Jack to get to the roof. They both get to the room and Jack tells Annie they need to get to the roof. Annie argues they should stay in the room. He begs her, and she eventually agrees. They run through the halls, littered with destroyed rooms and dead bodies. Briegel drops her stuffed animal, and Jack begins to go back for it before seeing one of the rebels who opens fire on the family. They make it to the roof and are led out into a group of foreigners and hotel employees looking for refuge. The roof is filled with injured people. Jack talks to some of them, and one of the guys speaks French. Jack calls over Annie, who's fluent. She tells him that the guy's telling her that there will be no prisoners. They'll all be dead soon, as well as blood for water. They got to the receptionist and ask what that means, and he tells them that the rebels are angry that the Americans took over the water. Annie asks Jack if he knew about this, but he says he thought they were there to help. Lucy asks what's going on, and Annie initially downplays it, but Jack tells them the truth. Then they hear a helicopter approaching and believe they're being rescued. As the helicopter appears, it turns to reveal rebels are piloting it. Jack acts fast and pulls his family down, hiding where people die all around him. As the helicopter flies around, it gets caught and tears the sign down. Jack and his family run to avoid the falling sign and helicopter, which is about to crash. The helicopter explodes. Jack notices that the barricade is breaking and the rebels are incoming. He looks over the edge and sees a nearby roof. He tells Annie they need to jump. Annie tells him he's crazy, but he tells her they have no choice. Annie gets up on the platform ready to jump. The girls try to stop her, but Jack holds them back. Annie runs and stops at the edge. Jack tells her to hurry, and she finally jumps across. Jack grabs Briegel and tells her to close her eyes. She argues with him and he calms her down before throwing her across. Lucy argues and refuses to, but Jack takes her and throws. She holds on to Jack and nearly falls to her death, but is pulled back up. Jack takes his belt and ties Lucy up before throwing her across. Jack jumps and makes it. As he looks back, the rebels' leader holds up the welcome flag for all the Cardiff employees, showing Jack's face as the target he's after. They fire shots at Jack and his family as they climb down to the floor below. They hide for a moment, hoping to figure out their next move. For a short moment, it's quiet. Then Jack looks out into the streets and sees a tank. He tells his family to run. They break into the offices and Jack warns them all. As they run through, the tank fires at the building, blasting them to the floor. They try to move while the tank continuously fires. They panic before hiding underneath a broken structure and furniture. Jack moves a dead body in front of their hiding spot just before the rebels arrive. They come in and kill anyone left and look for Jack and his family. After a while, they give up and move on. Jack tells Annie they need to get to the American embassy. After waiting till nightfall, they come out of hiding. Jack looks for things that might help him, and Annie looks to find the embassy on a map. While Annie looks, Jack sees the rebels run over a group of prisoners on the streets. He goes over to Annie as Lucy finds the embassy. Jack shows them where they are on the map. While they plan for their journey, a noise disrupts them, and they try to hide again. A rebel sees them and calls out for the others. Jack springs into action and goes to silence the rebel by tackling him to the ground. Jack pleads with him not to scream, but as soon as Jack lets him go, he calls out. Jack kills him as Annie watches in horror. Jack goes to see if the key he found fits in any of the motorbikes parked downstairs. Finally, Jack finds the right bike. They all hop on and drive in search of the embassy. All around them, the city's burning, statues are toppled over, and bodies are everywhere. As they turn the corner, they spot a strong rebel presence in front of them. Annie begs him to turn around, but he knows there's no other way. They move through the rebels as they celebrate their victory. The large amount of people causes the bike to fall over, and someone helps them to get it back up and spots Jack's face through the mask. He moves on as Jack continues. Eventually, they make it through and arrive at the embassy, but find it heavily barricaded. Jack climbs up the walls of the tires and spikes to see if anyone's on the other side. As he approaches the embassy, a group of rebels walk out and spot him just before the building explodes. Jack runs back to his family, and they run for their lives. They go to a Buddhist shrine garden. Initially, the keeper of the gardens tries to get them to leave, but sees the scared children and tells the family to follow him. He hides them in the garden and tells them to keep quiet. The rebels walk in and confront the man, pushing him to the ground. Jack sees a rebel put his gun down and begins going towards him to get it. As he gets closer, he steps on his stick, and the rebel hears him. As the rebel approaches Jack's location, Annie goes to help him. She exposes herself and is taken hostage by the rebels who punch her in the face. Jack runs out and bashes the rebel's skull in and takes the gun. He aims it at the leader, fires the weapon, but nothing happens. He's quickly attacked from behind and fights off the rebels one by one. Jack falls to the floor, and the rebels, about to kill him, are stopped by the leader. The rebels force Jack's face to a pedestal and make him watch as the leader prepares to sexually assault Annie. Before he can do anything, a gun goes off, and Hammond walks into the gardens. He's forced to the ground by a gun-wielding rebel. Hammond begs to live, but then pulls out a gun, and with the help of the guy who brought him in, they kill all the rebels. The guy helping Hammond is revealed to be Kenny, the cab driver. Jack goes to Annie and holds her, thankful that she's okay. Hammond guides them out of the gardens, telling them that he knows somewhere where they'll all be safe. When Lucy throws a fit, refusing to leave, Hammond gives her a necklace his daughter gave him a long time ago. Lucy, now calm, agrees to continue. They run through the streets and reach a brothel. They make their way to the roof where Kenny's making food. They all sit, rest, and eat. Hammond asks to speak to Jack and Annie alone and tells them that downstream of the river is the Vietnamese border. If they cross it, they can gain asylum and go home. Jack asks Hammond if he's a British CIA, but Hammond doesn't confirm. When Jack thanks him for coming back, Hammond declines the pleasantry. Instead, he tells Jack he's partly to blame for the situation he and his family find themselves in. Hammond tells Jack that their countries and the corporations have interests in the region. They come in and engage in practices of building power plants and water systems, highways, whatever it might be. When the country can't pay the debt, the other countries own them. He tells them that since he got Jack and his family into this mess, he's going to help him get out. He tells Jack that in 4 hours, they're leaving. Hours later, Jack wakes up and sees Hammond and Kenny crawling towards the wall. They tell him to be quiet and not to make a move. A shot's fired at him, and Hammond tells them all to get to the wall quickly. Hammond tells Jack and Annie that he's going to fire at the men in the gun tower while they make a run for it. They move, and Hammond follows behind them. Kenny's killed on the way down, and so is Hammond. Jack and Annie keep the girls moving, and Hammond gets the last two in the tower. He's poorly wounded and tells them how to get out before he gains the strength to follow. They get out into the streets and Hammond collapses. Jack goes back and tries to help him, but he leaves a nearly dead Hammond behind as a car approaches. The car gets closer, and Hammond attempts to get up. He aims his gun and waits for the right moment before shooting the driver. The car drives into him but crashes immediately afterward, giving the Doyers more time to escape. They get off the streets and aren't sure what to do next. Jack starts to have a panic attack, but Annie helps him recover before they move on towards the river. As they get closer to the river, Jack sees two rebels coming. He's about to kill them when they turn the corner without noticing them. Jack and Annie take the kids and go into hiding. Jack goes to the river alone in search of a boat. Jack finds a boat and gives the man his stuff to get the boat. Annie notices the rebels returning and guides the girls towards Jack. The fisherman hides Jack. Moments later, they lift the boat and Jack launches himself at the leader and begins beating him. Jack's soon overpowered and has a gun to his head. Lucy runs out and tries to warn Jack. They shoot Jack, and a rebel grabs Lucy. The rebel puts the gun in Lucy's hand and tells her to kill Jack. He then puts a gun to Lucy's head, and Jack tells Lucy to shoot him. Annie hits the rebel leader, and Jack grabs the gun from Lucy, shooting the other rebels. Annie kills the leader. Jack manages to kill the other rebels, and they all head to the boat. They climb in and begin moving downriver. A car drives along and calls out to him. Annie sees the Vietnam border and tells Jack to keep going. As they approach, the Vietnamese soldiers tell them to stop as they don't have permission to enter Vietnam. Jack tries to tell them they're seeking asylum. As they cross the boundary, the Vietnamese soldiers turn their weapons on the rebels, saying that they'll consider it an act of war if they shoot. The rebels lower their guns. The Dwyer family saved by the Vietnamese soldiers and brought into the city. The family, now safe, rest with Jack while he's in the hospital. No Escape was released in 2015 by the Weinstein Company. It starred Owen Wilson, Lake Bell, and Pierce Brosnan. Would you do anything if it meant surviving? Tell me with the hashtag Cinema Recap in the comments.